So in this video, we're going to look at the basics of home wireless or Wi-Fi and why certain things work in your home and certain don't. Now, I'm going to try to make this as short as sweet as I can, but the first thing we need to do is understand what the differences are between the different frequencies. So if you've bought a wireless router lately, you've probably noticed that both the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz frequencies are available on your router. So we need to understand a little bit of history before we go into why things work the way they do. So hopefully I don't bore you with this, but we need to understand it. So we're going to take a look at the 4.2 and the 5.0 gigahertz networks. Okay, so back in the day, you might have heard of the term 802.11. And not to go way back, we're going to go back to G. G worked at a frequency of 2.4 gigahertz, and it gave us a theoretical speed of 54 megabits per second. Now, if you're not familiar with what megabits per second means, right now with internet speeds, your internet is based on a download speed and an upload speed. So for example, my internet provides 600 megabits per second download. So that's anything coming from the internet down to my computer, essentially. And I have a terrible upload speed, but it is 10 megabits per second, which means anything going up to the web. So currently, if you're doing things like Zoom, you are bringing your audio and some of your video up to the web. So if this is slow, that may be slowing your performance. If you're uploading videos to YouTube, then they are going up at 10 megabits per second. But if you're watching videos from YouTube, they're going down at 600 megabits per second. So if you notice, one of the challenges with 802.11g is that it was theoretically slow at 54 megabits. So we ended up getting 802.11n as in Nancy. And initially it ran at the 2.4 gigahertz frequency as well, but N allowed for 300 megabits per second. But if you notice, that's still not as fast as my current internet speed in the way of download. So the next thing that came along was 802.11n, but it started working on a 5 gigahertz frequency. Now, working on a 5 gigahertz frequency meant that it was faster, and it was faster to 900 megabits per second. So still though, now some people are able to get up to a gigabit, which is 1,024 megabits per second. That's 1 gigabit per second equals 1,024 megabits per second. So this right here was not fast enough. So we again increased it to 802.11 AC. And AC, running at the 5 gigahertz speeds, allowed for anywhere from 433 megabits per second up to 1.7 gigabits per second. Now, all of this is theoretical. The other thing that we need to understand in regards to the frequencies is how they work. So I'm going to switch here. Now, 2.4 gigahertz, and I'm going to put 5.0 gigahertz over here. Now, 2.4 had a very long range, but it was slower. 5 gigahertz had a more narrower range, and if there was something like a barrier in between, it doesn't flow as well through that barrier, like a wall in your home. Whereas 2.4 gigahertz can go ahead and flow through more barriers. Now, the problem with 2.4 gigahertz is that many devices came out that supported this frequency, and thus the frequency quickly filled up. 5 gigahertz didn't have as many devices at the time, thus there was fewer devices utilizing the bandwidth. So that's the first part. Now what I'm going to do is show you a home and how all this works in your home, which is the important part. So here is how this applies to your home. First of all, I'm going to build a home. And I'm going to build it from us looking from the outside in, and then also looking down on your home. So we're going to say that these are different rooms within the home, and this is going to be level 1 and level 2 of your home. Now here's the challenge with Wi-Fi and the 2.4 gigahertz versus the 2.5 gigahertz network. Now normally somewhere around here there's going to be a box outside your home that delivers either cable or delivers a telephone for DSL. Now the challenge is, normally what they're going to do is they're going to bring that connection in somewhere into the home right here. And then, depending on what kind of device you get, your internet service provider, we refer to those as the ISP, that's your internet service provider, is going to give you a modem. Now, sometimes that's the only device you have, is because the modem also has Wi-Fi, and it could have both the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz. Now here's what happens. Let's say that on a desk in the office, I have just a single modem. Now first of all, those modem/Wi-Fi devices aren't very powerful. So although they have the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz, I'm going to go ahead and actually, let me do this. Let me do the 2.4 first. So with the 2.4, from this device, it extends out a signal like that. So this would be the signal from the 2.4. This might be the signal looking down on the home from the 2.4. Now, if we then switch to a 5 gigahertz network, we'll do 5 in pink, it's going to have a faster speed, but it's not going to extend as far. So the challenge becomes, how do I get internet coverage to cover my entire house? So what a lot of people do is they'll turn this modem, if it has Wi-Fi, if it's just a modem, then they're going to get an additional Wi-Fi router, okay? And you can pick these up from anywhere, Best Buy, Costco, etc. But they're going to get an additional Wi-Fi router, and most Wi-Fi routers today will have 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz speeds. So devices that can connect to 5 gigahertz, we will. But if you notice, if I have a 5 gigahertz device over here or a 5 gigahertz device over here, it's going to have a hard time connecting. And even if it does connect, the further away it is, the lower my bandwidth. And the lower my bandwidth means even though I might have 600 megabits per second down, when I run a speed test, it either barely connects or it may run well lower than that because the signal is so weak. So I start getting unreliability. Now, what I want to talk about is the idea of adding two different devices. One is a Wi-Fi device. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do this color. And let's say right next to this modem, I add a little Wi-Fi device. Okay, this is a Wi-Fi router. That's one option. And by adding that Wi-Fi router, suddenly my 5 gigahertz extends here. And then my 2.4, so this is our 5 gigahertz. And then my 2.4 suddenly extends out here. Now notice one of the challenges is my neighbors are suddenly getting it. And then my 2.4 might extend out here. So this is going to be my 2.4. Now, maybe the 2.4 covers the house, maybe it doesn't. In this case, looking down on the house, if my house is big enough, this might only cover 1,500 square feet in a circle in a diameter, whereas this still isn't covered. So what a lot of people do is they will come in. Let me do some undos here. They will come in and instead of adding a single Wi-Fi router to our mix, they are going to add what's called a mesh network. Now with a mesh network, what we end up doing is putting what's called a puck, or the primary puck here. Then I can put a puck over here and a puck over here. And I can do the same thing here, whereas I can put a puck here, and then maybe on the second floor, I put a puck here. Now the cool thing with this is suddenly, when I'm broadcasting my 2.4 gigahertz network, these are playing together. Okay, and by playing together, let me actually put that other puck out here. So we have 3 pucks, maybe we even have a 4 puck system, but we do this. And by doing this, my 2.4 gigahertz network is going to cover the house, which means I have strong signal every place in my house. And my 5 gigahertz network is even going to cover the house. So by having this mesh network and those pucks working together, my signal strength stays so strong that my house is completely covered. So that's why you might want to consider a mesh network over a single Wi-Fi device. If you do end up going with the single Wi-Fi device, my suggestion would be to try to run a cable that places that Wi-Fi device as close to the center of the house as you can, so that it covers as much of the house as you can. I hope this makes sense and helps out. Take care.